Hello, hello, hello to all my beautiful people once again. This is the Jamaica Trekker again with part 2 of my Ghana trip experience. It's a continuation from my first video about Ghana. So if you haven't seen that video yet, you're definitely going to want to watch that one first. Before we dive in, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, then share it with everyone. So let's start with the Elmina Castle. We were able to visit the Elmina Castle in Cape Coast. It was built by a captain named Don Diego Azambuja. He led the Portuguese soldiers to build this castle. It then became the main area of the transatlantic slave trade. The Portuguese back then would bring various items and goods to trade for slaves. They would bring tobacco, gunpowder, knives, spices, and liquors, even gold and ivory, just for the slave trade. Ghana was so rich that soon after the Portuguese recognized that, they gave the country the name Mina de Ouro, which translates gold mine. All these facts I learned from our tour guide, who was very knowledgeable and knew a lot about the castle. While at the Elmina Castle, I've learned so much about forced capture, a way that the English would strategize and leaving no options for freedom for the slaves. The Europeans would forcefully capture Africans at gunpoint. If they resisted, they would be killed. We were also taught about raiding and kidnapping, which was another way of trapping slaves for businesses. Slaves were ambushed near farms or on their way to the river. The kidnappers would hide among bushes and surrounding landscape with guns and other weapons before ultimately kidnapping these natives for sales. Sometimes the slave raiders would go to extreme measures, such as setting the slaves' homes on fire, and as they ran out of their houses, they would be kidnapped. Let's talk about the horn blowers. While the slaves were sleeping, about an hour before getting up, the horns would sound, alerting the slaves it's time to get up for the farm. They would then hurry to grab water or milk in any container that was available to take with them to the farm. They would also take corn or maize with them. There were no lunch break, so they had to eat quickly, return to working again on the farm. Just imagine all day in the burning sun and your meal was just corn and water or milk. Most of the slaves were afraid of the whips that the slave masters would use on them. Some preferred dying than to live and endure the pain and cruelty at the hands of these greedy and cruel slave masters. A group of us were able to visit the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park Museum. Kwame Nkrumah was the first president or prime minister and president of Ghana after gaining independence from Britain. He was also an advocate for the Pan-Africanism movement. When he died, he was buried 3 times in a 20 years period, but his final resting place was in Ghana. Before his wife died, her request was that she be buried next to her husband. Her wishes were granted by the people of Ghana. We also visited the W.E.B. Du Bois Memorial Center for Pan-African Culture. Du Bois was an American historian, sociologist, and Pan-African civil rights activist. His robe from graduation was still in a showcase at the center. There were paintings and plaques and much more showcasing items from W.E.B. Du Bois. Let's continue now with the last spot, known as the final place many of our ancestors' life ended. Slaves would rest here for days and sometimes weeks before having their last bath. They would walk approximately 25 miles along the Cape Coast, Kumasi region to the fort. We also walked down by the river just to see for ourselves where our ancestors' river was located. We could not help noticing how clean the people of Ghana kept the land and surrounding area. They also painted the roots of the trees white so that we'll remember our ancestors. I had a moment to actually stop and take in the experience as I stood up on a rock at the river.
And so we are here visiting at Ghana, Accra, where our ancestors with shackles and chains have to come and get their last bath to the point of no return, knowing not where they're going or where they're going to end up. But so we are here in Ghana, at the river, where all our ancestors had their last bath.
Towards the end of the trip, we visited the Aburi Botanical Garden. We learned so much about the different plants, trees, and history behind a few of them. Not surprising to me, a lot of the plants were used for medicinal purposes. It reminded me a bit of my home in Jamaica and also have holistic uses. Even some of the tree barks had healing properties. We were told by our tour guide that some of these plants in the garden were used for blisters, bruises, cuts, pain, and much more. There's also a special tree in the garden they believe can heal those who are anemic by picking a few leaves from it and drinking it. After the juice is extracted, you will begin to see progress and its effect. Another tree in the garden we were introduced to was named Hosanna Palm. According to the tour guide, palm in the Bible was used to welcome Christ, and so it was given the name Hosanna Palm. I sat on a tree in the garden also and was told it was called a snake tree due to the curved S shape and has two heads. Very unique tree. To me, the most interesting and fascinating tree turned out to be planted over 150 years ago. Although the leaves faded and fell off, the pine tree never died. But I won't say much as I prefer you to hear more about it from our tour guide.
It's the first pine tree in Ghana. They were planted here 150 years ago. We have an artist in the garden. He's called Kofi. So it took Kofi 9 months to design this tree like this. And the design is telling everything about like how human beings start, what we go through, and how we end in life. When you all look at the top, you will notice there's like a king, a symbol. At the bottom of this tree is a newly born baby. It's like a newly born baby at the bottom. And what it means is that humans, all of us, we all begin like a baby. Usually when we are growing up, each and everyone try to move to the top. Young man here, young boy here, this guy. If you watch his hand, it shows that he's climbing. And right behind him is his parent pushing, supporting. Over here, there's a young man trying so hard to climb. Nobody is helping him. The people surrounding him are rather pulling him down.
That's fascinating.
So for those who are on this branch, everyone here took a wrong direction. When growing up, when you don't listen and you take a wrong direction.
The Kokum National Park and the Stingless Beast Center we also visited. An old rusty yellow copter was placed in the middle of the field. It was brought there in the 1940s by the British for children to observe and learn while expanding their curiosity. Whether for school studies, dramas, or film, they had free use of it. It was called a Sikorsky aircraft. Before its retirement, the helicopter was used in World War. For now, it will spend the last of its days in the garden in Ghana. So we were not able to sit and rest. Long after much walking, sliding, and sweating, we saw this old building, which reminded me of some places I've been back in the days in Jamaica again. And so I decided to sit and rest for a few minutes before heading back to our transportation. Once we made it through the rainforest in Cookham National Park, there was a sign to take memorable pictures to say, "We have made it out safely from their park." There is so much history that I've learned on this trip, and half has not been told. Thank you all for joining me as we reviewed some of Ghana's history. Join me next time, the Jamaica Trekker, as we go exploring on our next trip. For now, take it easy.